Hey guys, welcome back to the channel, and this is going to be a quick look at Franken Castle, one of the new champions this month. And I did play him against all the defenders that you can come up with against Alliance War or Battlegrounds. And this, I will share my verdict at the end of the video, but I would say that he is quite limiting on what kind of fights he can take. Now he's a great champion. Now the way you play him is you throw your SP2s out or you throw your heavy attacks and you try to get as many Incinerates as possible on the opponent, because when you throw those SP1s out, that burst damage really kicks in with the number of Incinerates on the opponent. And there is a new mechanic here. Whenever you're going to dash back and hold your you can dash back and not hold your block, you're just gonna just walk in with an unstoppable, and you can use that to intercept the opponent. Now that is very useful against quite a bit of champions. So for example, Arnim Zola, it will work great against him, because against Arnim Zola you need to knock him down, and while unstoppable you can spam your heavy. Another thing you know about Franken Castle, that if you block the last hit of a special attack of a defender, you also go unstoppable, so you can use that to your advantage. You will see that I'm using that throughout this fight against Arnim Zola, and I think he's a great counter to Arnim Zola. So SP1, block the last hit, I've got unstoppable, heavy attack, and I reduce the charges. Same thing again, unstoppable ready, he cannot retaliate me, and then I can throw a heavy attack and remove those charges. And the heavy attack stack on those Incinerates, the SP2s as well, and look at that damage with the SP1. Now I just want to preface that for the purpose of this video, I'm using a rank 3 Franken Castle only, and also I'm only taking defenders with 90 to 100,000 their rating, because that is what you usually face in Battlegrounds unless you're using a rank 4. Now, a great champion that I thought that he wouldn't work against is Enchantress, but he actually works really well. The trouble thing about Enchantress is going to be her orange free fight that requires you to intercept, but you can really easily intercept with Franken Castle. Everything else you have to play normal as an Enchantress fight, but when you go against Enchantress, what you need to do is first remove the other spells, and then you can just idle and let him run through with the unstoppable towards Enchantress. And as soon as Enchantress is going to attack you, you can just use a basic attack and you can remove the spell that requires intercepts. But it's gonna take a little bit of practice. He's not really easy to play with the new mechanic. It does take a little while, but once you get used to it, he can take a lot of he can do a lot of damage, and he also takes a lot of beating. You will notice how much health I'm losing in all of these fights, but if you have willpower up, his ability accuracy when it comes to regen cannot be reduced, and he's immune to petrify and also spectre, so his regions cannot be reversed. So in that way he works super well. Now here's another example against Red Skull. I think he's a great counter to Red Skull. All you need to do is to just keep using your heavy attacks in between. What I like to do is to use parry and heavy mostly until I build up to an SP2, and if I can parry the opponent, for example if Red Skull gets to 10 of his armor ups and he is not we are not able to parry him, I can just dash back, idle, and run up to him with my unstoppable and then use a heavy attack, and that is going to help me out. So build up your SP2, throw that out. Even if he throws an SP1 here, that's going to be fine as well. With a big SP1, look at that damage, he's down to 35%. I'm gonna block the last hit and I'm gonna go in and attack him with another SP1, boom, 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 and Red Skull is almost down. So he's really fun to play, he does a lot of damage. The problem I have with Franken Castle is he is not really great against a lot of champions that you want him to be great against. For example, if you go into the science class, he is not going to have great counters to a lot of those champions. So for example, if the champion is going to be Incinerate immune, you're done for. You can do that fight, but it's going to take quite a lot of time to bring them down. So I would not necessarily use him against Incinerate immune champions. Second, champions that can shrug off debuffs. that's going to be annoying as well. Now Franken Castle also does not have any kind of passive stun, being a skill champion, or he does not have any kind of shrug of Purify himself. So that makes him very limited on a lot of fights. There is most of your skill champions have either a counter to evade or a miss, but Franken Castle does not have that even. So a lot of champions, if he has Incinerate, if he has evade, or if he has kind of some mischance, Franken Castle is going to struggle. He is made for fights that where you have to play stun immune, so his running in can work super well. Or you have big tanky champions that are a bit vanilla. So for example, Rintrah is an example that you just saw. Sasquatch, Immortal Abomination, these kind of champions he will work great against. But if they are champions that can either miss or either evade, or they can shrug off stuns, is going to be a bit difficult. And also his playstyles needs a bit used to. Now here I am taking out Werewolf by night, so what I'm going to try to do is to block his last hit of SP1, and that gives me unstoppable, and that I'm going to use to my advantage to get in my 5-hit combo. Same thing again, using my SP2 while the unstoppable is up, and I'm going to get all of those berserk charges, and then I'm going to wait for him to throw that SP1 out again. So if the defender has a special attack, you can block the last hit of the special and you can go in with your unstoppable. And if he does not have that, then simply you just idle and walk up to the opponent, and you can use that to get your unstoppable and deal the damage. Now here is Werewolf by night. I am not worried about the damage with all of those ruptures, because he is immune to regenerate reduction, so I'm always going to be gaining full health from the willpower. So having that out of the way, here's another example of Black Panther Civil War. Now this champion is a bit difficult in a way that you cannot parry him all the time depending on how many charges we have. But the good thing about Franken Castle is you can just block the last hit of a special attack and you can attack back. So let's check that out here. So here I just walked in with my idle unstoppable with a big SP2 to get all of those Incinerates up. Now going back in, I can block the last hit of a special one and I can retaliate again. So that's where Franken Castle like really shines. Any champion that can shrug off debuffs, so for example Kingpin, for example Black Panther Civil War, both of your Daredevils, Crossbones, any of those champions that can shrug off, you can use the unstoppable to your advantage. Or any champions where you need damage over time, specifically Incinerate, and you need to knock them down like Arnim Zola, you can use Franken Castle. But other than that, I feel like he's quite a bit limited, because anytime you go against an alliance war, or if you go against any other difficult defender, for example, let's talk about some difficult defenders. So there is Photon. She goes invisible and she applies a lot of debuffs. Franken Castle is not gonna work, although he is a skill champion. Let's talk about another skill champion. For example, Spider-Man. He's not gonna work. He has no evade counters there. What else there is that is difficult? Let's talk about another class that is going to be Cosmic. He's not going to work against Dark Phoenix because he does not. She is immune to Incinerate. So he is kind of limited if you are thinking about using him in Battlegrounds or using him, for example, in the tough defenders, because he's not going to work there. But yeah, if you want to use him as a defender, he can be a bit difficult because you will need defenders that have slow to counter his unstoppable, because he goes unstoppable so much. So that is somewhere I think I could use him. But other than that, I find he is really good in the vanilla matchups where the defender does not apply any kind of non-immune debuffs on you, and also the defender is quite straightforward. There is no like extra element of evade or miss or any kind of shrug off. That is where Franken Castle will shine. But other than that, I think he is very kind of underwhelming for me. I was very excited for his champion because of all of his crazy damage and also his burst damage and everything, but I think we might need to tweak it a little. I don't know what is the concept behind him, how crazy they want this Franken Castle to be as an attacker. But when I look at his kind of the PDF that was shared with us as content creators, it was like he's going to be damage 4, ease of access, ease of use is 2.5. I don't think he's an ease of use 2.5. It takes quite a bit of use to start using him in the right way. And I would suggest one thing on this champion is to either give him Purify ability so he can deal with some more, or give him either evade or either miss counter. I think any one of those will work super well, or they can give him like supernova like they have given to Super Skrull. So any one of those things, because a lot of these crazy champions either have shrug off or they are immune to incinerate, and Franken Castle simply falls off. So I would say a great example, a great thing to do with Franken Castle would be to give him either a Purify, or on his Incinerate give him the ability to apply supernova on the opponents when they are incinerate immune, so he can work well. But again, being a skill champion, he should be really good against science champions, but to be honest, he really fails against them. He doesn't do really good. Even as somebody as basic as Thing, you can take him down, but it takes a time because his protection kicks in, and that just really slows down all of your damage. So the verdict on him is going to be quite underwhelming, to be honest. He is great when the matchup is perfect for him, but as a utility against different champions, against your meta defenders, if I might say, he doesn't really work. So I would not be the one just jumping to rank 3 him. Or, you know, he can be very specific in use, very niche in use. For example, few matchups in Battleground, I don't think I can take him to Alliance War, or he can be good in Story Quest and something like that. But all in all, he needs a little more tweak in my opinion. But let me know in the comment section, what do you think? I just tried to do this video because I thought I had to get this out for Franken Castle. Let me know if you like this format and you want to see these every month when the new champions are released. I would love to hear from you. And yeah, that's about it, guys. I hope you all have an amazing day, and I'll see you next time. Bye.